Okay, members, 349. Moving on to the close to last bill. We have first up, Department of the Attorney General. Any comments?
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Woodson and members of the committee. We submitted written testimony on this measure, and the primary focus of my summary today will be with regard to our urging this committee to delete Section 8 and 9 of the bill because of the adverse impact that it may have upon the state's receipt of master settlement agreement funds on a go-forward basis.
Thank you. Next, we have Doe Tax. Okay. Submitting comments. Department of Health in support.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm here for the Department of Health, Lola Irvin. So the Department of Health appreciates the intent. We are concerned about using the definition of cigarette, which is a very narrow definition under which to encompass all of these products. So we do offer a separate definition for electronic smoking cigarettes, or ESDs, electronic smoking devices, in our testimony. We also find that the definition for tobacco is a broader term and categorically then could hold all of these products. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, moving on, members. Now we have here American Cancer Society in support. Thank you so much. Queen Tel Systems also in support. Okay, Coalition for Tobacco Free Hawaii.
Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jessica Yamauchi, Executive Director for the Coalition for Tobacco Free Hawaii. I'll keep this brief. The Coalition supports the intent of House Bill 349 and appreciates the comprehensive approach to regulate ESDs, but agrees with the Department of Health on the definition and has recommended the same definition be applied. The Coalition strongly supports Section 3, which would include ESDs in the Hawaii State smoke-free air laws, and which would really provide for further consistency and protections of our residents and visitors. We need to do everything we can to protect everyone from secondhand aerosols being emitted from ESDs. The Coalition also supports Section 5 of HB 349, which would include ESDs in Section 328J17. This section makes it unlawful to distribute sample cigarette or tobacco products, cigarette or tobacco promotional materials, and coupons redeemable for cigarette or tobacco products or promotional materials, and would also apply to ESDs. These are the sections that we strongly support at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Hawaii Smoker Alliance in opposition.
Hawaii Smokers Alliance, Michael Zahner. Good afternoon, Chair Woodson and committee. Our organization finds that this bill has no merit to it. It talks about the settlement agreement. These products are completely different than combustible tobacco products and had no part in that decision-making process. We don't believe that should be included. It talks about child care facilities. I'm not aware of any child care facility that promotes itself as a vaping-friendly environment or that impresses parents. I mean, if there is one out there, maybe they could mention that there's a need there. I haven't seen that. Kind of like a child care facility promoting gambling or drinking beer in front of the kids. I don't know that we have a law against that, but I'm sure that wouldn't sell very well. The most onerous part that I find, again, is banning it everywhere that tobacco products are banned. These products are helping people quit, and if you take away the incentivization to use this is probably the most effective quit product ever, almost everywhere, then it's actually promoting people to go back to tobacco. I know for me, it's the only product that will ever work for me to substitute for tobacco. The gums, they give me hiccups, and some of the other products, I've read the reports in the litigation, are just really dangerous products that I would want to stay away from. Excuse me. Hold on, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Yeah, so electronic smoking devices, under current law, that's even in adults-only establishments, that's in outdoor patio areas, and we don't really have the burden of proof. We don't have any objective government studies that have been properly peer-reviewed, that have been done by unbiased sources, and we should wait until we have that. We haven't had OSHA come forward or anybody, come up and say, hey, enforce the general duty clause. This is the right thing to do. We can show this is harmful. We got a lot of proof, and they haven't done that. Let's wait for the facts first before we damn these products. And I thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Next, we have Tax Foundation providing comments. Okay, now we have several individuals. Joy Marshall in support. Jenny Chan in opposition. Is there anyone else here that wishes to testify on this measure?
Hi, I'm Kavika Gavan.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Kavika Gavan.
Kavika, okay.
I'm a senior at Kalaheo High School. I oppose this bill mainly to classify it as something other than tobacco, though it should be taxed and have the same liabilities as tobacco. I do disagree that it should be classified as tobacco. That's all.
Thank you so much. Did you provide testimony?
I did.
Okay, could you please write something up, provide it for our clerk, so we'll have it for our records.
What was that?
Will you please provide testimony to the members, so we'll have it for our records?
Okay.
Thank
Type
you.
it out.
Written testimony.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, please go.
Aloha, Chair and members of the board. My name is P.M. Azinga, and I stand in support of this particular bill, but however, with amendments, particularly wanting the expansion of the age portion. What I have read, it only includes ages 18 to 21. My concern is that locally in Hawaii, we have experienced a quadrupling of middle school students now using these projects. Quadrupling of middle school students. So a middle school student is what, 10 years old? Hello? In high school, we have experienced a triple in the use of these products. Right now, the American Medical New England Journal of Medicine has stated that when a child, underage child, uses these particular products, they have a 5 to 15 time susceptibility to contracting cancer. Okay. And in my testimony that I submitted, there are over 20 different known carcinogens that have been already acknowledged. My also concern is that that we should be cautious because we're talking about nationwide putting 16 million children at risk in the fact that if we don't move on this particular product. And if I was to quote Marion Wright Engelman, who is in charge of the Children's Legal Defense Fund, if we don't stand up for children, then we don't stand up for much. To be quite frank, we are at war for the minds and souls and bodies of the next generation of children. These guerrilla marketing tactics that are used to draw attention to the children. That means colorful looking products. That means products that are essentially taste savvy, attracting young taste buds as well. And I think that we really need to be vigilant in terms of our marketing. And just as a...
If you could please wrap it up.
Okay. And just as a FYI, I have approached the Hawaii Board of Education with regard to expansion of the definition of these products to include e-cigarette and also vaporing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Okay, let's go.
We have representatives from the University of Hawaii Cancer Center present.
Oh.
We did submit testimony online. I'm not sure what happened.
Yes, we have it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chip Ellis. I'm the Physical Director for the UH Cancer Center. And this is Dr. Thaddeus Herzog, who is a researcher in our prevention and control program. We are speaking in favor of the bill, and we've submitted testimony to that effect. We thought it would be useful for you to have access to Dr. Herzog. He has published a whole lot of papers on the subject. He and his colleagues, which we'd be happy to provide you electronic copies of this if you would like, on the subject. And just thought maybe it would be useful for you to hear just a few of his words on his research.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. I'm Thaddeus Herzog of the UH Cancer Center, and as Chip just said, I'm a scientist who studies e-cigarettes and have published a number of studies on it. And so we're just here as the Cancer Center to offer our expertise. So it is a complicated issue. There are some pros and cons. We do realize that some people use e-cigarettes to try to quit smoking. On the other hand, we are quite concerned about the very rapid uptake of e-cigarette use among youth whose brains are still developing, and so that's a concern. Another concern of mine is the use of these devices, these vaporizing devices, which can be used as sort of all-purpose drug delivery devices as well, so people can use them to ingest THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, for example. And that's one thing that's not often discussed. But anyhow, it's not a simple issue. There are variety of arguments to be made, and we're here to offer our expertise.
Thank you so much. Okay, also providing late testimony is, what do we have here? Volcano Fine Electronic Cigarettes. Are they here?
My written testimony and available for any questions.
In opposition. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Please. Hi.
Vice Chair Woodson, members of the committee, late good afternoon. I would like to offer some comments on the opposition side. But as a background, I've lost family members to smoking, and this is not the subject matter of your bill. However, there are certain claims made by the opponents concerning formaldehyde in the product, and scientists have said that the actual amount that will cause any ill effect will be a huge amount. So I would like to have that claim investigated before the other two committees actually act upon, such as funding the implementation of the bill that you go ahead and adopt. When this subject matter came up at the city council across the street, I was one of the few that also opposed it. Personally, I quit smoking pipe back in about 1972, but my brother was offered cigarettes as a reward, and I'm not sure this product that you have in your bill is in that same vein. And my father also smoked cigarettes that were offered to him free. And I smoke cigars every now and then when some parents have just had a child, celebrating. But I think it's best that we don't jump the gun and have a knee-jerk reaction and in adopting something merely and solely for the purpose of avoiding liability on behalf of a business. You're not in the business of tobacco. If you're going to look out for the liability,
just wrap it up.
Yeah, if you're going to look out for the liability risk management for the tobacco industry, I think we're really overreaching ourselves.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Arvid, did you supply
No, I
written
haven't,
testimony?
but I'll submit
If you
one.
can. Thank you so much.
I'll get this.
Okay.
The strip of paper.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify?
Do you want to testify?
Okay, members, do we have any questions?
Just one. The cancer research person, I'm sorry, your name is? Mr. Herzog, or Dr. Herzog, could you please sit? Now, there have been claims, and I don't know how true they are, that basically that vaping actually reduces the risk of cancer because these are the same people who would be smoking cigarettes which are cancerous. Statistically, has there been any reduction or increase? I don't know. How true is that claim is what I want to know.
Well, it's a topic of much debate. So that, I mean, there's a few aspects of that. Unfortunately, I can't say anything too definitive because
there hasn't been any study.
It's a bit, well, so you raised a couple of points. I mean, one was, I think you asked, are the e-cigarettes less harmful than regular cigarettes? Was that part of your question, or maybe you should?
Well,
can you?
Well, you heard the testimony of the people who are opposing it, right? And I'm trying to figure out, are e-cigarettes at least less harmful as far as cancer producing than regular cigarettes? And have there been statistics or studies to back this claim up, pro or con?
I would say it's too early to say definitively. However, I would say it is true that the e-cigarettes, the vapor is not smoke, and vapor is different than smoke. So the vapor does have, the smoke has elements that are quite harmful that the e-cigarettes do not. So
okay.
So that's true. That doesn't mean that e-cigarettes are safe.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing is, I think one of the, and maybe I'm wrong, this is my my memory of why there was a movement towards vaping versus regular smoking, was the secondhand smoke. Do you have the secondhand smoke type of problems with vaping?
I would say, and again, people have very strong opinions about this. I would say that the vapor is not as bad as the smoke in terms of secondhand. You know,
Okay.
if you were to be in a small room, you'd be better off with the vapor than the smoke. Now, again, that doesn't mean that the vapor does not contain some bad
understand.
things, but just that vapor, smoke is generally worse
Okay.
to breathe. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Herzog, Dr. Herzog, could you sit there? So Dr. Herzog, it's my understanding that you have in fact done some research on this particular, on ESDs, correct, on electronic smoking devices?
Yes.
Okay, so again, to the layperson, can you please summarize? You said that in your verbal testimony you indicated that it is a complicated subject, but whatever you can summarize, because again, you've heard the opponents who are essentially saying this is not tobacco, this is vapor, it's safe, it's a very different type of device from cigarettes. It should not be taxed, it should not be regulated like tobacco. One of the issues that we have right now, at least I'm noticing this, as one of the testifiers noted, you have young kids who are smoking these left and right, and we did in fact pass a bill that prohibits the sale, and I think Representative Bellotti can help me on this, but I recall us passing a bill that prohibited the sale of ESDs to, I think, children under the age of 18. But the problem is that many of these people using ESDs are smoking them wherever they choose, whether it's in the movie theater, they're very disrespectful. Whether it's in a restaurant, they feel that because there's no regulation, they can smoke them wherever. So that's just my 2 cents. But can you please, summarize for us what exactly has been the crux of your research? Because again, there's clearly a discrepancy in terms of what the opponents are saying versus the supporters of this bill. And whatever based on your research, and I don't know how long you've been researching ESDs, depending on how long they've been in existence, but what is, can you summarize in a non-complicated lay terms what exactly your research has found.
Well, I wouldn't limit it to my own research, but also what I know from reading
yes.
other researchers' work. So, e-cigarettes and cigarettes are different products,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no question about that. And one of them produces smoke, and the other one produces vapor. There are problems with. Well, we all know about the problems with cigarettes, right? I mean, there's no debating about that. Now, there are concerns regarding e-cigarettes as well. I mean, some of them you mentioned. I think the biggest concern, in my opinion, is with the youth. Their very rapid increase in using these products, and what will be the consequences of that. Unfortunately, it's not entirely clear. Whether we know that a lot of kids are using them. Now, will some of those kids go on to smoke regular cigarettes? We don't really know the answer to that yet. Are those kids going to continue using e-cigarettes for their whole life? Well, we don't know that either, because it's such a new product that we really don't know what's going to happen. Now, in some ways, I would say e-cigarettes are a better alternative than cigarettes if one had to choose, right? Now, we prefer that nobody uses either, but we don't know what the long-term consequences are going to be. Of course, we don't really know very well the health effects long-term of e-cigarettes either, because it's, again, such a new product. Nobody's been using them for more than 5 or 10 years, and in most cases 5 or fewer years. So they are different products. I mean, I think we need to acknowledge that, that we can't just say that cigarettes and e-cigarettes are the same thing. They're not the same thing. There are differences. And we know how bad cigarettes are. E-cigarettes are a new product. There's considerable risks. There are many things we don't know. And so that's where we are today.
Dr. Herzog, so again, with the understanding that these products are relatively new, so the research is not necessary. There hasn't been enough time to research the long-term effects. Has there been any research with respect to kids? And in the 5 to 10 years that these products have been on the market, has there been any research with respect to kids and their usage, and then subsequently transitioning into the use of additional tobacco products, marijuana products, etc.?
I think we still don't know the answer to that. I mean, what the kid. Well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I mean,
okay.
And again, I mean, another concern is that I mentioned before is that these devices are being used increasingly to ingest other substances as well. That's something that's really quite poorly understood, but we certainly know, at least anecdotally, that this is certainly happening.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Herzog.
You're welcome.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just because there's a please come up. Your name is PM again? Is that your name? Okay. Mrs. Zinga, again, you're very passionate, and I want you've been sitting here patiently all afternoon. So clearly you seem to have a little bit
I do have some objections. Okay. First of all, I'd like to ask the doctor, does vapor produce liquid nicotine? Yes
well, we're
or
not
no?
here to answer the question. You asked the question.
The question is that these products produce liquid nicotine. I will concur and agree with him that these are transitional products. In other words, crack cocaine can be placed in this implement, this tool. Heroin can be placed into this tool, and they're doing it on the island, west side, right now, and also the Smarties. You know what those things are? During Halloween, it's the little candies. Rolls, those candies, they can be crushed up. Mm-hmm. And our kids are resourceful, and they're not dummies. They can put it in the pipe and smoke it. In California, they've had about 5 deaths already from Smarties because the kids are either snorting it or they're putting it in the vapor devices. This is no game. This is not funny games with Dick and Jane. And we're not talking about whether there has been research related to children. There is out there. I shared with you what the New England Journal of Medicine has come out just Friday, the 29th of January. They're following this. They have been tracking this. You can even follow what's happening in Europe related to this. Right now, there are over 40 states that are falling in line to protect the next generation because it is that something that needs to be really monitored.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mrs. Inga. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions? Representative Cregan, please.
Dr. Herzog.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it must be. No, regular cigarettes. That's my coffee.
Now, my understanding is that the e-cigarettes is nicotine solution, but is that nicotine from tobacco plants?
You know, that's a great question. I think it is derived from tobacco, but honestly, I'm not sure.
Because nicotine is present in a lot of different plants.
Well, you apparently have quite great expertise in
Any of the Solanaceae family have nicotine? I mean,
take your
clearly,
word for it.
tobacco has a higher level, or it would be tobacco. But
Yeah, I just didn't know if it can be produced synthetically. I'm not. And that's not really my area of expertise.
Oh.
It's a good question.
Wow. So, but if you know, rats or whatever animals you'd use to test this, not that I approve of that necessarily, but having them smoke nicotine solutions, would they get cancer at the same rate, or would they get a different kind of cancer if it's just nicotine vaporization rather than, you know, cigarette smoke? Have those tests been done?
Well, I mean, you're touching on an important issue. Is the nicotine in a cigarette is the addictive substance that gets a smoker hooked on the nicotine, but it's not the most harmful substance in the cigarette. It's not what's ultimately
Right.
going to give somebody lung cancer. That's all the tar and all the other many carcinogens in there. So. That's why smokers use also, you know, nicotine patch, nicotine gum. They get nicotine into their body with these other you know, perfectly legal products. So it's the nicotine. The nicotine's a problem because it hooks the person on the cigarette or on the other tobacco products, but it itself is not what causes the lung cancer and heart disease and other issues.
So, I mean, someone who used a nicotine vaporization device wouldn't necessarily get lung cancer from that.
Well, we don't. I mean, there's an issue of inhaling.
What I'm saying is, like, when they've tested it in rats, what type of cancer do they get from nicotine solutions vaporized? I mean, it must have been tested.
I don't work with rats. I'm not aware of subjecting rats to a nicotine vapor.
Okay,
yeah,
when
so
they test,
I'm not saying
animals for nicotine, you know, for addictive potential different devices, they'll administer it in some way, right?
When you
put it this way, if you were trying to get a rat addicted to nicotine, would it be very easy to do so?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I've never done it, but yeah, I would guess it would be. Yeah. You probably. A researcher might inject the rat in that case. I'm not sure how they would. I don't think you can induce a rat to smoke. I think that would be. You know,
well, vaporize.
Or.
Now, I've read that. You know, a couple of interesting things about Parkinson's disease. One that smokers have a 50% less incidence of Parkinson's disease. Are you familiar with those studies?
Sounds vaguely familiar, but I wouldn't want to. You know, I'm not too familiar.
Not
with
that that would be rude to smoke cigarettes, but in terms of the other studies have shown that, you know, the treatment of Parkinson's involves things like L-DOPA, and people often, you know, after a brief response to those medications, start getting more symptoms, and those symptoms are ameliorated by using nicotine. Inhaled nicotine or nicotine solutions.
I'm really not familiar with that.
So the point is, there are potentially some medical benefits of nicotine.
Oh, well, I mean, as I was saying, you know, nicotine isn't the culprit for the lung cancer directly. You know, again, it's the substance it's the drug that hooks the smoker and gets them to use the cigarette over and over again and it's the tar from the smoke
Right.
that's so unhealthy.
So it's not
just
the
like
nicotine vapors that tar in the cigarettes that causes lung cancer.
the e-cigarette doesn't have this. That doesn't have the
Doesn't
smoke,
have the
so it doesn't
carcinogens.
have the same. Now it does have other stuff, right? I mean, it's not air, right? I mean, the only safe thing to breathe is air, really, right? So we don't really know. Now, generally, I think most people believe that vapor is better than smoke. It's just smoke is just like you wouldn't want to be in a room full of smoke, any kind of type of smoke. Smoke is
Well,
not
I mean,
good.
even the smoke from a barbecue would be worse than the vapor from an e-cigarette. Right? I mean, smoke from a barbecue would have carcinogens in it.
I would strongly suspect that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Woodson.
Okay, I have a question for you. Just a very quick question. I know it's getting late here. You made a phrase earlier. You said that these mechanisms are all-purpose delivery systems,
Well, this one talks about
and you spoke to that in relation to THC. From your research, or do you know? Can you verify if, in fact, these devices are used to incorporate THC for consumption at this point?
Well, I'm not aware of any really systematic research about it, but I'm pretty confident anecdotally that this is indeed happening. I just couldn't say what percentage of kids have done that, but I'm quite certain that some kids are, and adults for that matter, are using the e-cigarette type device, this vaporizing technology to inhale other drugs such as THC. There's no question that this is happening.
Okay, and it may seem a little obtuse, but is that vapor, is it odorless? The vapor itself,
it is
do you know?
relative, as I understand it, and again, there's not a whole lot of information about this, but it is relatively odorless. It's much less odorous as marijuana smoke. So yeah, indeed, I think one of the reasons why kids are attracted to this is they can get the similar high, a marijuana high, but not smell up their room or the vicinity, the school, or what
Yes,
have you.
that's kind of my point. Okay, thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, that I believe is the last bill on the agenda. As we discussed at the beginning, all items on this agenda will be deferred for decision-making at the beginning of the next hearing, which is on Monday. Okay, have a great day and a great week. Aloha.